for the wrong to rule. The good must just stand idly by.
Hello, happy new week. How are you doing? I've spent the first half of this week trending on the social media for two reasons. One, Ofcom's belated report into the most complained about show on British television last year, my appalling crime of saying that I didn't want to shag someone. I mean, I really am with them on this one because, listen, it is so much worse than that chunky comedian Joe Brand saying that Nigel Farage should have acid thrown in his face, especially seeing as what we've seen in terms of acid being thrown in people's faces recently. Oh, there's been an acid attack just today, and guess what? It only took the police about 30 seconds to release the name of the chap who was being searched for. Do you know why? Can you guess? I'll give you a clue. His surname was sort of English sounding. It wasn't as easy. Anyway, yes, not shagging. Acid in face. Ofcom. Acid in face, good. Not shagging, the crime of the century. Who else? Oh yes, that other quite irritating little chubby woman, Margulies, who said that she wanted Boris Johnson to die of COVID. Ofcom, good. But my favourite of all was Sophie Ducker. And what did she say? It's not like we all want to kill Whitey. We do. So she's just saying, kill all white people. Ofcom, good. How long can the mirage of what democracy is stay when you've got such two-tiered everything? I mean, I'm trying to think of a single thing that isn't two-tiered. Media, two-tiered, regulated by the off-communists. The judiciary, the judiciary. Speaking of two-tiered, Sam Mellier, 2 years in jail. I mean, some would say not nearly enough for some stickers. 2 years, eh? Speaking of stickers, what happened to those three girls with the parachute celebrating the massacre of innocent men and women in Israel on the 7th of October attacks? Oh yeah, they got let off because their lesson, according to the judge, Tanweer Ikram, who liked a video calling Israel a terrorist state. It's nice to know that the judges are impartial, isn't it? Really gives you confidence in the country and the fact that it's going in a really good place. He said their lesson was well learned, even though they had committed a terrorist offence. It is quite funny though, because the wokies are getting it in the neck too now. Tom Swarbrick, he's on LBC. He's quite a wokey one, but he's not, you know, as Churchill said, the crocodile is still going to eat you. It just eats you last. And like being woke is you have to be the most woke person. There's always a race, and whoever's not woke enough is going to suffer the consequences of that. Like, because the whole thing's a revolution, the woke revolution. So it's got nothing to do with social justice or anything like that. It's just, you know, once revolutions start, you've built the guillotine, you've got to start chopping people's heads off. And at the end, you end up with Tom Swarbrick. So his white privilege was on display so much because he didn't support the murderous death cult Hamas enough. And therefore, he got sort of cancelled by one of his callers. And the look on his face was a look of mild concern. Same with AOC in America. She got hounded out of the cinema. I don't like any hounding people out of cinemas and things like that. I think it's just wrong. But she hasn't condemned Israel enough. You've got to be part of the woke revolution is you've got to be profoundly anti-Semitic. It's just crucial. It's really important. And I think, as I said last week, one of my friends is going to leave the UK now because he says it's unrecognisable and he doesn't feel safe, which is, I think, shared by quite a lot of people. And then we've got, George Galloway. So Rochdale, George got more votes than almost everyone else put together. So that shows there's a profound rejection of the main political parties, and possibly we'll see the rise of independents. So if George is getting more votes than Labour, Conservative, Lib Dems and Reform, and he's all pretty well, a very large percentage of those votes are postal votes. I think we may have a problem with postal votes. Do you? What happened to good old-fashioned one day of voting, and the only way you can get a postal vote is you literally can't move? So I was pretty happy to see George win, even though he's so strange, George. He's a real enigma. He's brilliant on when the Batley Grammar School teacher was hounded out of his job and with death threats from those that have assimilated so beautifully and wonderfully into our culture. He came out and stood with me on the square in Batley when we did a conversation about free speech and the importance of free speech, as I keep droning on about, because it's the only way we can protect our democracy. I said it. I said the terrible words that they keep saying, our democracy. I don't trust it when people say our democracy. Anyway, I wonder if we'll see the rise of many more independents. And certainly he's saying he's going to stand someone against Angela Rayner. And I think there'll probably be quite a few on representing foreign interests in English elections. And that's what happens when you have mass uncontrolled immigration and you decide that you're going to try a multicultural experiment. Rishi did a very moving speech outside Parliament at 5:45 on a Friday night because he finally realised that people were absolutely sick to death of what's been going on in London. But what he did was he did the classic gaslighting, in my view. He goes on and on. He goes, we cannot put up with this extremism. And then he talks about the far right. All those far right marches we've been seeing. They've been blighting London for ages. All those far right people that are attacking the statue of Churchill, which has to be protected by the police because no one decided to protect our own borders. Whatever this country looks like in the future, it's going to be pretty bonkers. But then I was sort of slightly, I got a slightly strange, what's it called I was a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? I was a bit torn because if someone gave me the choice between diversity, equity, inclusion and Islam, I think I'd take Islam. I mean, I definitely would prefer Ramadan to, what's it called, LGBTQ History Month. I'd give that up. I'd prefer it. But there we are. We'll have to see what happens. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is what Rishi should really be getting rid of, because though we all know what diversity, equity, and inclusion means. Diversity means no white people. Equity means no meritocracy, no meritocratic way of living, which is, again, the foundations of how this country was built. And inclusion means no white people. And we're just shamed in our own country. We're being shamed, and you can be openly, you only have to open your phone and you'll just see vicious, vile, racist rants directed at people while the police stand there picking their noses. But they did rescue someone from a fire, which was really good of them. What other news have we got? I can't work out if diversity, equity, and inclusion are my 3 most hated words on this planet, or gender-affirming care, the mutilation of children. I've just sat through an interview we've done in anticipation and preparation for our case against the Department of Education, because the Department of Education don't seem to be able to deal with the fact that our children are being indoctrinated in schools, certainly over gender ideology and all of the critical theories, critical race theory, obviously critical gender theory and all the other ones. And I sat through a half-an-hour documentary, which we made, which I would love you to watch, and I'll give you the details. And it was absolutely heartbreaking. A mother's story of what happened to her son behind her back in schools, behind the family's back. And she was such a desperately reasonable person. And her son's life was totally taken away from her by activist teachers. So we've written the letter for action to the Department of Education. They got back to us yesterday and said, can we have some more time to respond? Which is the 15th of March. I don't know what they're going to respond with. We've changed our mind. We're going to stop doing this to kids behind their parents' backs. I doubt it. And then the deadline for launching the judicial review to stop the philosophical and political indoctrination of children in schools will commence. And it's brilliant. And we've put this case together. Well, I haven't put this case together because what do I know about the law? But our barrister has, and the bad law is working alongside our barristers and solicitors. So we're going to come out, and when this documentary comes out, I just urge all parents to watch it. any other gossip? Ah, yes, there may be some news coming soon in regards to the Mayor of London. You know, that little man with small hands and feet. And I think a month of attacking him and how he's destroyed this city with his ridiculous leftist ideologies and made everyone poorer and more miserable, as they tend to do, these ideologues. That might be coming soon as well. So to all of the Twitter trolls, ex-trolls, exes, who have written me replies or things about me that I haven't read. Sorry, guys, I don't really get into the replies, as you may or may not have noticed. Thank you. Continue to troll. It is, being the woke bogeyman is quite a yoke to bear, but it's one I'm really willing to do, because I do not like you revolutionary little communists at all, one little bit. And as Tom Swarbrick is finding out, once the revolution starts and the mob gets emboldened, it won't stop at people like me. Although I may end up in the gulag or in the guillotine first, Tom Swarbrick won't be far behind. There is no beating them. So until next week. Final piece of news. Tomorrow, there will be a new show starting here with the excellent Father Calvin Robinson, who's not very good at Ofcom either. No, actually, I don't think he did anything wrong with Ofcom. I just think he was a brave, loyal friend to Dan Wootton and myself, and he managed to get fired from GB News too. Well, Mondays, when they were just looking for an excuse to fire him. I did giggle when I was reading the Ofcom thing, and it was, this misogyny. What I'd done was, the latest landmine I'd stepped on was a man saying he didn't want to shag a woman. See, that is worse than saying you want someone dead in this modern two-tiered clown world. I want to finish by reading this, because I think most of the time people go on about George Orwell in 1984 when they are talking about, this insane our democracy that we live in. But Aldous Huxley was also pretty good on it. So I shall finish with this. By means of ever more effective methods of mind manipulation, the democracies will change their nature. The quaint old forms, elections, parliaments, supreme courts, and all the rest will remain. The underlying substance will be a new kind of totalitarianism. All the traditional names, all the hallowed slogans will remain exactly what they were in the good old days. Democracy and freedom will be the theme of every broadcast, haven't you noticed? Meanwhile, the ruling oligarchy and its highly trained elite of soldiers, policemen, thought manufacturers, and mind manipulators will quietly run the show as they see fit. See you later.